Mr. Speaker, my amendment strikes funding in the bill to close existing Forest Service roads. Maintaining and expanding access to our public lands has been a priority for me and many of my colleagues on the Natural Resources Committee this Congress. Another lesser-known but equally important threat to access is the closure and decommissioning of roads and trails. Since 1991, the Forest Service has decommissioned an average of 2,000 miles of roads per year. Public lands across the nation are under threat from big city environmental groups who are hell-bent on restricting public access to our shared public lands. Shutting down these avenues for access doesn't just limit opportunities for recreational activities like hunting, fishing, and ATVing. It also makes responsible management efforts more difficult and expensive. And that's exactly their goal. My subcommittee saw these road closures firsthand in the Chequamegon-Nicolet National Forest in my district during a field hearing in May. It is not a coincidence that many of these local road closures correlate with a decline in the local forest products industry, the same industry that helps keep our forests and the communities that depend on them healthy and vibrant. Forest Service roads can also act as an important fire break for wildfires and allow quicker access to go fight them. The language of decommissioning roads that are no longer needed is quite vague. And in my experience, the Forest Service has not been very good about coordinating with local communities before closing roads that many people use. Mr. Speaker, why are we spending tax dollars to close roads we spent tax money to build? It makes no sense. Let's make a U-turn on the harmful policy and stop throwing up roadblocks that make it more difficult for Americans to visit these special places. I ask for a yes vote on the amendment.
Does the gentleman reserve?
Mr. Speaker, yes, I reserve.
Gentleman reserves.
Thank you.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Maine seek recognition?
I claim time in opposition to this amendment, Mr. Chair.
The gentlewoman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This amendment would be detrimental to the Forest Service ability to maintain quality fisheries and safe public drinking water. Decommissioning of roads is a critical tool in the management of the National Forest System that allows the service to remove roads that are no longer necessary and are likely to cause resource damages to the local watershed, affecting fish habitat and water quality. Decommissioning is used judiciously within the National Forest System, and it is necessary for the Forest Service to ensure that the removal of the road will have little to no impact to public access or fire suppression. Often, when one road is decommissioned, another existing road is identified as the alternative access to the local area, which allows access to be maintained. This is an unnecessary amendment. I urge my colleagues to oppose it, and I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentlewoman reserves. The gentleman from Wisconsin is recognized.
Boy, I wish the gentlelady would have been with us on our tour in May in northern Wisconsin. She would have heard from local people, local elected officials, state elected officials, and others who are harmed by these road closures that are happening. And the waste of tax dollars is very significant. We saw perfectly fine roads that had been constructed to go in and do logging projects, and then they were removed. We heard from a couple elderly ladies who are berry pickers, which is a favorite pastime of many people up in northern Wisconsin at this time of year. They used to go out there and be able to pick berries now and then. They can no longer do that. So this is denying access to the very people who want to use our public lands that are taken care of with their tax dollars. There is no reason to close these roads. These roads have been active oftentimes for decades with no problems. And to use the rationale that this is going to harm the watershed, you come to some of the areas that we toured in our trip on May, and you have some of the finest waters that you'll find in northern Wisconsin, and they were that way when these roads were active. There is no reason that we should be closing and decommissioning these roads.